Welcome to the Cambridge Tech Podcast, talking all things technology from the heart of the UK's tech capital. Here are your hosts, Faye Holland and James Parton.
Hi, I'm James.
And I'm Faye. So James, how's your week been?
Well, obviously it's been a 4-day week this week, hasn't it, with the bank holiday? So it feels like a lot of people have been away, which has meant a really good catch-up and admin week. Although I've been doing some more podcast planning calls with future guests, so that's exciting. We obviously got out in the sunshine to visit O2H, which I think we'll come on and talk about in a second. And I just got out the LinkedIn newsletter. Oh my God, that thing is turning into a beast. That actually takes me ages to write that now. So I hope you appreciate all of that effort.
Oh, me or the listeners? The listeners definitely appreciate it. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you. What have you been up to then?
Well, so bank holiday. Bank holiday weeks just kill me because it's, 4 days then, isn't it? And no one's been away on my side of things. It's been absolutely manic trying to get everything into 4 days. But like you say, we did go to O2H, which is this week's episode. I was also there before we did the recording for their AIM Squad meeting, which was absolutely brilliant. Everyone was there just sharing ideas and thoughts in a really free-flowing conversation. So that was the first time I've been there, but it was really good. I did another masterclass with the 2024 Impulse cohort, and I love it because these are really young academics, entrepreneurs who've just got some great ideas. So it's as much a learning for me as to what their key issues are as it is for me actually trying to give them some tips and tricks as well. So that was really good. And then basically it's just getting the work done, get your head down and just get the work done, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, well, it sounds like you've had another busy one then.
Always. Weeks are always busy, aren't they? But we like it that way, so that's all good. So it's been busy in the news as well, so I think we should crack on with that. So first up, we have Arm, who smashed Q4 expectations but cautioned on their full year figures, which pegged back a share on Nasdaq. Arm CEO Rene Haas repeated his assertion that the company was right at the heart of everything innovative in the future of compute.
Yeah, and SoftBank, which still owns more than 90% of Arm, is believed to be in talks with another high-tech Cambridge business, which is GraphCore. Sale talks have apparently been going on for months, and a sale could go through by the summer, which is reporting from our friends at Business Weekly. GraphCore are headquartered in Bristol, but they also have offices at Kett House in Cambridge.
Wow, exciting times. And I'm sure that'll be all over social media as well, won't it? About another UK business changing hands. Cambridge video game developer Frontier Developments has continued its bounce back by unveiling a buoyant update for the 12 months to May the 31st. The stock rose 5% as the company demonstrated how strongly it had rallied since its April the 2nd update. The board projects revenue for financial year 24 of at least £85 million.
Ewan Kirk, who's a leading UK technology entrepreneur and early stage investor, has warned that the quality of spin-outs from British universities is too low. Kirk, who founded Cantab Capital Partners and is chairman of the VC fund and accelerator Deep Tech Labs, says many UK universities aren't properly equipping students with the skills and knowledge that they need to successfully found and scale successful startups. He notes that the Golden Triangle, which is Oxford, Cambridge and London, is a world leader in facilitating entrepreneurship, but says this success must be replicated across other regions and other universities to unlock the full potential of the nation's higher education system. Kirk said, "We have a world-leading higher education system, and UK universities are at the forefront of some of the world's greatest research and innovation, but only a fraction of university spin-outs become high-growth businesses."
Yes, that's a really interesting story, isn't it? It's attention grabbing, and I think he will have got quite a lot of reactions from universities around the UK who would suggest that they are actually doing okay on that front. And certainly locally, what's been going on in Essex and Norwich, there's been real growth in those areas. So I expect Ewan's inbox might be a bit interesting at the moment. So the last Cambridge-based piece of news today is with Thermotechnics, who have a full hand of Kings and Queens awards. They've now received 5 in total, after most recently being honoured with a prize for innovation. This latest award is for a nighttime augmented reality head-up display delivering covert team situational awareness, navigation and target information. And the company more generally is a global innovator in thermal imaging, night vision and augmented reality applications across a wide range of applications. So well done to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, our final piece of news is outside of Cambridge, but will certainly be of interest to our tech and creative audience. It was actually announced this week that South by Southwest is coming to London in 2025. So that's exciting. That should be a real boost to the creative industries. And, London's a great choice because London's quite an unusual capital when you think it's the centre for so many industries: music, fashion, art, tech, alongside Cambridge, of course. And, the world-class creative agency scene in London. Plus, of course, it's a global financial centre. So that's really good news for the capital. Have you been to South by? I actually went in 2012. It was an experience, should we say?
Yeah, so no, I haven't. So I've spent a lot of time working in the States, but I've managed to avoid lots of these big things. It's like I've managed to avoid going to Mobile World Congress. It's the same by Southwest, Las Vegas, all of those kinds of things. But I'm sure that's a much longer conversation that the listeners don't need to be bored with.
I hope they replicate the kind of vibe in London, because you've got those interesting mixes of, the tech scene, the music scene, the film scene. So, as I said, London's ideally set up to support that because we've got such vibrant industries.
The film scene, we've got at the bottom of the M11 now a massive business space that's all about films, and a lot of the big films are actually done in the UK now as well. So I think you're right. I think it will be great. It'll be really exciting. And what better place to bring it to Europe than into London?
Yeah, so I've already had a quick chat with Carolyn over at Cambridge Enterprise about setting up a Cambridge house as part of the London event. So we'll see how we can plant the flag for Cambridge in South by Southwest London. So watch this space. And yeah, just wrapping up, talking of events, we have Tech Nation Rising Stars Regional Final, which is on Monday at the Bradfield. And also at the Bradfield, we've got the Cambridge AI Meetup on May the 23rd.
Perfect. So, talking about events, it's exactly 1 month until Cambridge Wide Open Day 2024, the second iteration of it. It'll take place on the 12th of June across Cambridge. So that's going to be the topic of this week's episode, as we've invited the creator, Prashant Shah of O2H Group, and advisory committee member Aline Charpentier of Bruntwood SciTech to tell us more. So before we get into the episode and talking about CWOD, let's first of all have introductions from both of you. So do you want to tell us who you are and what your day job is? Aline, why don't you go first?
So my name is Aline Charpentier. I'm head of innovation for Bruntwood SciTech. So I'm based on Melbourne Science Park, and my day-to-day job is to sort of oversee the development of the park, since we acquired it a couple of years ago from TTP, but very, very much focusing on this early stage part of the redevelopment. So looking at bringing an incubator on site and helping early stage companies in this interface between tech, engineering and life science coming from TTP or from the wider Cambridge cluster. Very excited to be here.
Thank you. And Prashant?
Thank you, Faye. Thank you for having me. O2H is about seeding new ideas in life science and tech. And there's kind of 3 parts to what we do. The first part is supporting early stage, seed stage companies, and that's O2H Ventures. The second part is O2H Discovery. So we back up these early stage companies with chemistry, biology, or tech support as needed. And that's out of the UK and India. And the third part, and what we do, probably a bit that's the most fun, which is building the community in and around the science park that we've been building, which is the Melbourne SciTech Park. And in there, we have co-working space. We support with chemistry, biology activity. But more than that, we really love building the community around what we do. So we run the Biotech Boot Camp. We've seeded the Cambridge Wide Open Day. We do things like an AIM Squad events where we bring together the venture builders, so biotech bikers, chai time pitches. So these are the kind of things we love doing and in this unique site.
Yeah, everything's got a catchy name. I mean, like you say, we are here today. We're actually on location.
And it's a beautiful building. It'd be really nice. It's a lovely sunny day as well, which makes it even nicer. So you mentioned Cambridge Wide Open Day there. So that's a perfect segue, as that's the main topic of the conversation in this episode. How did the idea for that come about?
Well, during the pandemic, you could feel there was an incredible excitement and energy and buzz around what was happening in Cambridge. There was a lot of new infrastructure coming up, new accelerators, incubators, companies being formed, venture capitalists moving, real estate investors getting excited. But there was very little in the way of community and an integrated kind of visible community at that time. And it got worse during the pandemic when almost nothing happened. So people were keen to see what was going on in Cambridge from around the world and around the country. And sometimes we were often in Cambridge, but had no idea what was going on and where we could see all these new things and exciting things that were coming up in Cambridge. So that was kind of the primary essence, to kind of get everybody to see what was going on. And it's extremely inconvenient for somebody, if you've come from America or whatever, to kind of then curate your own trip and meet all the right people. So thought, well, wouldn't it be easier? And I was curating trips from people from overseas and doing customized day trips for them, saying, oh, you can meet this person, setting up a meeting. I thought, why am I doing this? Surely we could just do an open day. And then everybody could come and see Cambridge in one shot and get a sense of the excitement of what was happening in Cambridge. So that was kind of the genesis of the Cambridge Wide Open Day. But there was another part of it that was a parallel conversation and happening in Cambridge, was how do we be a world-class innovation-led ecosystem? And how can we do that if we don't bring the residents with us? And I was born and brought up in Cambridge, so I've had kind of first-hand experience of, in a sense, how dislocated this city has been between the people involved in academia, entrepreneurship, science, and the rest of the city. And the politicians are all saying, well, yeah, it's all very well talking about Cambridge being a world-class city for science innovation, but the people who live here, what's in it for them? So that's why the Cambridge Open Day kind of morphed quite quickly into the Cambridge Wide Open Day. Right. So the residents could actually see what was going on in their communities. And a lot of these science parks are gated science parks. So even if you live in the community, you don't really know what's going on behind them. So this is an opportunity not only to open up a single science park, but all the science and tech parks. So you can come in, do a tour, meet the scientists, meet the VCs, there's policymakers, there's politicians, there's CEOs, there's people with money, the venture capitalists, so all there around the table and engaged in what's going on and willing to showcase to each other in Cambridge, a national audience, but also a residential audience, what's going on in Cambridge.
Fabulous. And Aline, how did you get involved?
Well, as you can hear, probably a lot thanks to Prashant's energy. So as soon as Prashant starts to pitch something, it's really hard to say no. No, but genuinely, I would say two things. One is I moved to Cambridge 12 years ago, something like that. Like lots of people just for a very short period of time. And then that just turned into 12 years. And I've seen that change that Prashant mentioned. So always being in that life science ecosystem. I mean, if you think about the last 10 years, it's AstraZeneca moving here, it's all the science parks booming, growing, and so the subsequent sort of population growing around that. But I think amongst ourselves, we were very, very knowledgeable and knew that actually it was a good thing for the economy, for the regions, etc. But we excluded a little bit that sort of wider picture of the residents and people who may not belong to that science sector, and so feel a little bit excluded because the only thing they could see was more traffic, house prices rising, etc. And so I quite like this idea of being more inclusive because, as Prashant mentioned, if we want to be the world-leading innovation ecosystem, it doesn't happen without involving absolutely everyone in the ecosystem. It's a sort of inclusive innovation. So very much was, built on that. And the other aspect is company I work for and now work on this Melbourne Science Park are very, very oriented into this community engagement. So it's a Manchester born and bred company. And so if you want to grow science parks around Manchester, you have to grow with like the local communities. And so it resonated a lot with what we were doing already in Melbourne. And so with that, of course, it's part of this bigger picture of the Cambridge ecosystem. But yeah, very much on board with the initiative and very happy to have someone driving it.
Yeah. And so just picking up on a point you made there about Manchester, that's the way you do it. Were there any differences? Were there any subtle differences between how you liaise with the community up north and how you did it last year in Melbourne, and indeed, how did you do it? How did it work?
So I'm personally less involved in the Manchester community engagement. I guess the differences are more sitting within the demographics of this population. So obviously, if you look at Manchester Science Park, it's very much urban centre, close to the universities. And so that's the sort of community you engage with. If you think about a Melbourne Science Park, it's in a village. So just your starting point of demographic is different. But I think the approach to engaging community is very similar. And it starts with this very plain and simple openness. So just to be open also to talk and to explain the vision that you have and how you can engage with companies, etc. So I'd say lots of similarities in the how, because it's mostly about openness, slight differences in terms of demographic, but that's what you would see around Cambridge as well. I suspect the Science Park has a different demographic to deal with because they're a bit more urban, but it doesn't change the nature of what we're doing.
And Prashant, from you, let's go through some of the highlights of 2023. Give us some of the big numbers. How many people came along?
Well, we had 600 people at the cocktail party, I think, which is the most important stat. And it was a lot of fun. People dressed up and with their bee outfits and their bee antennae, which we handed out to everybody who came in. So you had like politicians turning up who were in their suits, wandering around with kind of buzzing bee headgear. So that was probably the highlight. But I think it was the way everybody came together during that day. You kind of had the former mayor and the current mayor of the combined authority having a conversation, with bee antennae on their head,
and they were leaning
over an
on
ice
the
cream.
wall over ice cream. Yeah, right in front of the ice cream man. Yep, I remember that.
So that kind of thing was memorable, and it was nice to see politicians, the policymakers, the venture capitalists, the CEOs, the residents, the people who live in the neighbourhoods, all at the same event, mixing in what was a beautiful summer sunny day. And that was the cocktail party. But the real meat of the day was between 11 to 3 o'clock, the open day. And we had probably 20 of venues that were open in and around Cambridge. And I jumped around 7 or 8 of them. And some of them were kind of company showcase fairs. So you could see the companies and the CEOs and what they were doing, and they had their stands and you could talk to them and meet them and pop around. Other venues had very interesting talks, a series of track of talks on science or technology by professors or leading venture capitalists. You then had professors talking about their research at the Judge Business School. And I really had a great time running around and seeing just how much energy and vim that there was to kind of share and showcase what people were doing in the Cambridge Wide Open Day last year. It was a wonderful energy.
So if you remember, I was in the car driving around with Tabitha. So that was episode 40 last year. And we went to Illumina and sat there listening to their presentations. We then went to the biomedical campus, went to Milner and saw Alexandra there, bumped into someone who was at the Illumina event who'd gone over to Cambridge Biomedical Campus as well. Then we went over to the West Hub, saw VetCT, Cambridge Network. So for me, that's exactly what Wide Open Day was all about, which was go and see things that you don't normally see. So you're right, it was very energetic. And the other thing that I thought was really nice was you had companies. So for example, Qkine on Newmarket Road had just recently opened their new office, and they used it as an opportunity, not just to showcase to the industry, but to open up to the residents as well. So yes, that was 2023.
Well, I was just going to say, so last year was the first ever Wide Open Days. How much planning went into that for the first year?
we were literally running by the seat of our pants probably for about 3 or 4 months, and we were innovating.
It was
on
true
the go.
innovation.
Yeah.
It was literally
Just
true
in time
innovation.
delivery.
Well, there's a word in India that they call for this called jugaad,
Right.
which means, you know, the pressure of the situation forces you to kind of change tack and make things happen at the last second. And I think those kind of jugaad traits came out in full force last year, and it was really hectic, but it was a lot of fun putting it together.
I bet it was. So I guess you've got the benefit of that experience now. So year 2, what does the plan look like for this year?
So the plan for this year is much more about driving content. So last year was about getting out and about and seeing what was going on. And I think what we learned from last year is what people really enjoyed when they went somewhere is not only to see a place, but to kind of be inspired, to learn something, to have a curiosity beyond just seeing a venue. So this year we're kind of got master classes, so much more, company pitches, product demos, talks, roundtables, small discussions, debates. This is the kind of thing which we're looking to do. So when you get to a venue, they get to showcase the science, the technology, but give you a more full spectrum, richer understanding of what's actually happening behind the scenes, and you come away with some insight or some learning. I think that's what we're really driving this year with each of the venues.
And I think you mentioned there's something like 20 venues last year. So are there additional venues been added for this year?
Yeah, we've got Granta have joined us this year, Chesterford Research Park and Anglia Ruskin University are 3 major additional new venues. And most of the venues that participated last year kind of dipped a toe in the water. I think this year they're kind of putting a whole foot in.
Yeah.
Like Babraham's a great example of that. So Samantha Jackson, she ran a smaller event last year, didn't she? And now she's convened loads of different companies and actually made a real point of saying, we want to get people from the residents around us to come in and look at what we're doing around sustainability. Don't just look at what's on the park, but actually it's a lovely open space that you can all see. So I think that message has definitely got home. What about you, Aline? What are you planning to do? Can you tell us?
Yeah, just to add a quick point about, yes, the how we plan and differences with that. I think it's equally important, I found, that the things are happening and it's very successful and that's how you measure that, but also the fact that we're talking about it before. So the whole promotion before, the whole saying the rest of the word that Cambridge is open, it's open to community, etc. And what we're doing right now, I think it's good. And that's also accounting success for those who may not turn up of the day because, I don't know, they're working water, but definitely it's opening the door and showing them that they can come and speak to us. What's happening in Melbourne? So so last year, again, I was a little bit, testing and seeing what's happening. I think it was a mix between showcasing companies that are on site, and there's not so many at the moment because the story of the park is that it's inherited from TTP and the TTP spin out, so it's mostly them. But still, it was important just to get them to be a bit more seen to the wider ecosystem because I don't think that they are that known. But also to show and explain to local village and population what was happening with the plans because we were going through that sort of master planning and planning application. And so just to keep that door open on the company front, but also on what's happening with redevelopment. Now we've got that planning permission, yay. So that's a bit of this next step. So again, what companies are here? What are the plans to bring more of the companies, getting the companies maybe demoing a little bit more what they do? But yeah, just to go deeper into what this really cool tech and engineering-led companies in life science do. And also on our end, what we're planning and that angle of what a park is. So what that means in terms of new buildings, how you build labs, in terms of, sustainability, it's one. We had some really good projects with communities. So it's just to showcase this project we did with community. So like doing this lovely bench for and picnic tables for the parks, etc. So to go on the 2 fronts of companies showcasing and also parks more in general. And of course, joining the garden party at O2H. I think.
Yes, of course. That's where everyone will gravitate to at the end of the day.
The rules of business and society have changed, and Mishcon de Reya stands at the forefront of this change, championing the innovation ecosystem at the heart of Cambridge. Our expertise is advising innovative companies at all stages of their life cycle, from startup investment right through to exit. We advise founders, entrepreneurs, management teams, and their investors. Discover what you can do with the law of tomorrow today at mishcon.com.
So I was actually going through the website earlier on, and that list is huge. I mean, the venues involved this year, the numbers are significantly up, and I guess they're still adding to. And I wanted to pick a few out. And I know that the point of Cambridge Wide Open Day is all of the venues do their own promotions and, drive people that are relevant to them to go and see them. But there's also the centralised bit. So let's just plug a few of them for you. So Cambridge Science Park and the Bradfield Centre are involved, and there are 8 new companies participating, including the likes of Raspberry Pi, the Cambridge Science Centre and Cambridge Consultants, which is really great. Lots of stuff going on at Unity Campus in the other end of Cambridge. They're hosting events at the Forum, and then they're doing lab tours of a couple of their tenants, DomainX and Foremost. You mentioned ARU, Prashant. They're doing a mix of academic and industry talks, covering AI and multiple other things. And the Cambridge Institute for Sustainable Leadership are doing a Meet the Tenants and a facility tour. So that's just a sample of some of the things that are going on. So there's definitely something for everyone.
How do you fit all this in one day? Is it going to grow? Is it going to get bigger?
We want it to grow and evolve, because I think if these things stay the same, then people get bored with it and then it kind of dies out. So every year we've got to put our brains together, and it's a lot of really great feedback and contributions from the steering committee, of which Aline is part of. Faye obviously is a great sounding board and a fountain of good ideas and making things happen. Very well connected, so it really helps us with the PR strategy. And we rely on the energy of the crowd itself to kind of inspire and drive this, really. It's not really the work of any one person. It's a very decentralized energy that we look to tap into, and that's what will make it work. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding. And next year we're looking to add to it and kind of evolve it further. And there's conversations with a lot of senior influencers around in Innovate Cambridge and Cambridge University Health Partners, and also Cambridge Tech Week, of maybe how we can evolve the Cambridge Wide Open Day to maybe being a life science week. And therefore, the bit that we do on the Wednesday, which is the Cambridge Wide Open Day, we can then tag on other science and or strategy, investor and community days, and then have a broader offering for a whole week.
Okay. No, that's great. Regular listeners to the podcast will be aware that we talk about Cambridge Tech Week quite a lot on the show. It sounds like you've got a close relationship. There's a dialogue with those folks. Clearly, both initiatives are great showcases for Cambridge. So that's encouraging that there's that collaboration between these different kind of vehicles. Cambridge has always been a place for genuine collaboration. I think if you look at the culture of how everybody works in Cambridge, it's collaboration at the forefront. So striking out on your own and stepping on other people's toes is not part of the culture here. So the first thing anybody does is kind of say, well, what is everybody else doing? And I want to, if we do something, add something to it, we want to bring all the other stakeholders who are already working in similar or nearby activities together, and let's brainstorm together. And I think that's the one thing about everybody in Cambridge that makes it utterly unique. People are far more selfless and think about Cambridge first more than they think about themselves and their own entity. And I think that kind of shines through in the level of conversation and the candid collaboration that happens between all the different stakeholders in Cambridge. I think there's a real strength and a feature of Cambridge.
How do people get involved, and where can they find out more?
Cambridge Wide Open Day.com is the URL. You can come on there, you can sign up and get a general pass for the Cambridge Wide Open Day. You can also sign up for a specific tour, if you don't want to run yourself around and design your own day, you can join one of the bus tours. And the third way is you can sign up for the garden party, which starts at 4:00, also on the cambridgewideopenday.com website. It's as easy as that. There's no fee involved, no complicated registration process, but for some of the venues, you'll need to bring your ID for security reasons.
And just going back to that point you made about the engagement with the local community, Aline, is there anything that's changed this year from like the first year's learnings of how to keep that momentum going?
Well, we'll see on the day. I think that will be the best KPI. I guess it helps to have that really good relationship with that local community, and they definitely welcome any opportunity to come and speak to us and to people on site. So even if they know they may meet the same company for some of them, it's not a problem. I think it's just a really good opportunity to do that. But as Prashant mentioned, the way we engage is very, very local. So it's us, going out, going to the main sort of hubs or places where people gather, make sure they're aware, posting on local Facebook pages, even putting flyers, old-fashioned way, they always work. But yeah, we usually get good tractions from that local community. Would definitely welcome the openness, and sometimes they may disagree or question things that are happening, but at least we're offering them the forum to go and do that. And I think it's a very healthy relationship we're having with them.
When you invite the residents into your park and your buildings, there's a real appreciation that you reached out to them and you're sharing what you were doing. They're really pleased about that you've gone to the trouble to do that. So I would encourage all of the venues that are involved to work on their kind of local outreach programs, because collectively, if we all do that, then we've got most of Cambridge covered, because the science is now covering the north, the south, the centre, the east and the west now.
Yeah, I think the message is really clear. It's just open to anyone. So if you've ever been curious about what happens across Cambridge in science, this is your opportunity to get involved. So if you're listening to this, pass it on to friends and family.
You're both serial networkers as well. You're always out and about. We always see you at different events. But before we let you go, I just wanted to Prashant to ask you something else. Listeners, again, will know we regularly feature community interest companies, charities at the end of most of our episodes on the podcast. This week, fortuitously, it's Form the Future, where you're the chair. And I just wondered, you've been in that role, a good few months now. How's that going for you?
I have to say, it's an incredible privilege to work with the team at Form the Future. They do unbelievable work, whether it's kind of in volunteering, ambassadors, skills training, engaging with the community. The number of events that they do is ridiculous. I don't know how they do it, but it's incredible. And they inspire a lot of young people to take up careers that they might not have otherwise considered. And I think as someone who was kind of born in Cambridge and grew up here, I really feel it's important that whether you're from here or you've come into Cambridge, that you make a contribution to that community. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested in making a contribution to kind of contact Form the Future or other similar organizations and get involved and build those bridges between all the different segments of the community in Cambridge.
Well, fabulous. I mean, thank you both for giving us a little bit of your time today. It's very much appreciated. So hopefully we'll see you there on the 12th of June. Tune in next week when we'll be talking about the Cambridge Independent Science and Technology Awards and showcasing some of the finalists and the winners announced on the night.
Today's show was produced by Carl Homer of Cambridge TV and supported by our media partner, Business Weekly. The Cambridge Tech Podcast is available on all major podcast platforms and on cambridgetechpodcast.com. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please give it a 5-star review. It will really help others discover the show.
The Cambridge Tech Podcast is supported by Rathbones, a leading provider of individual wealth management services to private clients, entrepreneurs, charities and professional partners. For more information, please visit rathbones.com. The value of your investments and the income from them may go down as well as up, and you could get back less than you invested. Do you have a passion to inspire the next generation of scientists, coders, managers and creative geniuses? Or do you want to pay back to the community as part of your CSR objectives? At Form the Future, we have programs to help you inspire the next generation of workers, build your future talent pipeline, and invest in your people. Go to formthefuture.org.uk to find out more.